Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about some Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Wait, we're talking about Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Sorry. Gentlemen and gentlemen, welcome to our talk about Age of Sigmar. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I think I'll cover like more in the future as well, and that is specifically a unit spotlight. AOS 4 has just come out. It's been about a month now or so. I don't know, about a month and a half, maybe 2 months now. And the meta's evolving. Everything is changing. We are seeing more and more lists come out, more and more tournaments come out. People experimenting, playing with new things. But we have started to see an actual meta emerge. Obviously, anything invocation wise has sort of been popping off. It's been really, really strong and powerful, and pretty much if you don't have a wizard, you're already on the back foot. However, nonetheless, as an ogre player myself, I wanted to talk a little bit about ogres, specifically ogre gluttons today, because we have noticed a massive rise in ogre win rates. We've seen some pretty good results coming out of the ogres, getting 4-1s, getting 5-0s in many events. And a lot of them have a trend that I thought I would talk about today, which is ogre gluttons. Ogre gluttons are absolutely everywhere. People are taking 36, people are taking 24, people are taking 12. I think the 36 glutton list is sort of dying out, making way for 24 and 12 glutton lists. And the only reason why is because, as funny as 36 gluttons is, battle tactics are hard when you have 3 units, and that's a whole lot of it. So I think you see a lot more people taking like 12 or 24. Sometimes, hell, even a nice clean 18. Sometimes MSUs, sometimes big units. But there is at minimum 12, if not more, in pretty much every list that is winning events or getting top places. So let's talk about them. Their war scroll is pretty. How do I describe? Average, bland, one of those. Their war scroll is very bland. They are 4 wounds each, or 4 HP each, health, whatever you want to call it. I'm an old player. I'm going to call it wounds because I can't not call it wounds. But it's 4 wounds each, 5 up save, 6-inch move, 2 control. They're really solid at controlling objectives. They're 6-man unit, so that's 24 wounds, which is a whole heap of wounds. And more importantly, a whole heap of control. 12 control is pretty huge coming out of a single unit without any bonuses. And then to add insult to injury, they also put out a metric ton of damage, and I mean a ton of damage. They are actually point for point the best damage dealing unit in the entirety of the Ogre Index, and by quite a decent margin, with only really the Iron Guts being able to keep up with them, which is why you still see Iron Guts in quite a few lists these days. But regardless of that fact, Ogre Gluttons have become a staple because of a couple of reasons, right? One, they have, like I said, a lot of HP, a lot of health, a lot of wounds. They are 220 points for that amount of wounds, which is not terrible, and they can health tank pretty decently. The other thing as well is 4 attacks each, 4s, 2s, rend 1, 2 damage, is a ton of damage, especially when you consider the new addition and the way combat works now. Prior to this, obviously a unit of 6 was probably as big as you could get, because then you would start to lose out on attacks because more and more guys would not be able to get into their 1-inch weapon range. However, now they all have 3-inch weapon range, which makes a 12-man unit, which is the maximum you can bring, absolutely massive. Combine that with an all-out attack, meaning they're 3s and 2s, they can deal some insane damage. Even if their mortal wound output on the charge is no longer as good, Meat Fist is dead, they now receive no longer a +2 to their movement when hungry, and instead a +2 to their run. Luckily for us, as Ogre players, we have Butchers, and Butchers are allowing us to run and charge, and they can also be taken with a Slaughtermaster, so that way once they do kill a unit, they can at the very least get a ward save, and a good one at that, making their health just exceptionally better, because they're going to go so much further with durability. And it's a reactive bonus as well, so you can choose the right time to use it, and every single time you get a kill, you're just ticking that buff up, up, up. It only does last for a turn, but that is all you need sometimes to really do some serious damage or survive some serious damage. Now, I would like to mention, while this is all good, this is all well, this is all fine, I think there's a couple of things that a lot of people forget. Number one is mainly that outside of Gluttons, a large majority of the Ogre book has actually been kind of neutered. And the big three in my eyes are Iron Guts, Stonehorns, and Iron Blasters. Stonehorns lost their 5-up ward, making them less of a tank than they have ever been. Their damage got ever so slightly better, and by ever so slightly, I mean like 0.5 damage average better. Their mortal wound output is atrocious compared to what it was on the charge, and also, for the most part, there is no longer a reason to take them thanks to the stone skeleton change and their durability dropping off a cliff. They now die in very, very easy combats to die in. Fleshhounds will kill them, goblins will kill them, let alone the heavy hitters like Rockgut Troggoths, where probably a single 3-man unit could wipe off a Stonehorn, which was never the case before, but it is certainly now. They're way too clunky, way too off on their own. They don't have a lot of synergies anymore. They've been completely and utterly taken down about 16 rungs on the ladder to almost the ground floor. They still have the possibility of play, but only because the Frostlord actually gives access to multiple other units, and you will now probably use the Frostlord himself as a battle tactic runner and pair him up with a single 2-man unit of Frost Sabers to do battle tactics wherever they need. And that's really his only purpose, and the only Stonehorn that we'll ever see play. Iron Guts also got hit pretty hard. They now hit on 4s, which is pretty devastating. They do wound on 2s, though, which is okay. They did lose, unfortunately, their 4-up save, which is a bit unfortunate, because that was one of the defining differences. And they also stayed at 240 points, which is a bit of a shame considering their damage is about 1 damage less than a Glutton, and the only reason why anyone takes them is now because of the fact that they get a double pile-in for that extra 20 points. I definitely think that overall, you're probably still better off running more Gluttons than a unit of Iron Guts, or if you do run a unit of Iron Guts, it's only 1 and it's in the General's Regiment. But nevertheless, Iron Guts did get a big hit as well, meaning Gluttons are far, far more competitive in terms of just internal balance, let alone the external balance. And then last but not least is actually one that a lot of people seem to have slept on for quite a while now, and that was the Iron Blasters. Iron Blasters were fantastic units, really long range shooting, 4s, 2s, neg 2, could be neg 3, d3 plus 3 damage. In melee, they were pretty solid with a single Glutton's worth of attacks as well as a little punchy mount attack. They had access to the monster mortal wounds with a spell. They had access to a 10-shot shrapnel shot at 12-inch range, which was 3s, rend 1, 2 damage, and all of this rend could go up by 1 on their shooting attacks if they took the right subfaction, which was very easily taken. They could shoot into combat. There was so many things going for them, and they were 200 points, which was a nerf from their original 160 or 180. But The new edition absolutely destroyed them. I think that it was probably one of the most devastating blows to the book. They went from 30-inch range on their big shots down to 18. They still hit on 4s and 2s with their big shots. Ren 2, D3 plus 3 still. However, their shrapnel shot lost 2 attacks, now hits on 4s instead of 3s. Still is Ren 1, 2 damage, but neither of them can shoot into combat. They're no longer able to do the better mortal wounds, albeit now they don't need to because their mortal wounds are probably somewhere in the middle between when they weren't buffed and when they are buffed. The downside, though, again, they cannot shoot into combat. They are significantly shorter range, which means they do need to be in threat range more often. They've just become a completely different war scroll in terms of the way they would be able to play. And the downside to them as well is not only did they go up by 40 points, but they lost one of their best synergies, which was the gruesome trophy rack, giving them +1 to hit against monsters and heroes. It's no longer there. It's only for melee. RIP our Iron Blasters, lest we forget, and hopefully they return to us in a new way when the book comes out, in a significantly better way, hopefully, as well. Other than that, let's just hope they lose like 80 points off their unit cost, and then maybe they'll be playable as like a 1 of, maybe a 2 of. But as of right now, our 3 major units that we're seeing lots and lots of play have sort of just dipped out of existence. So is Gluttons really, I guess, the question becomes, is Gluttons the only reason why Ogres are good? Or is it that Ogres are just good in general? And I think overall, Gluttons are the only reason why Ogres are good. But we can't just look at an internal balance standpoint. I think the other thing that we have to mention as well is external balance. And in this situation, Gluttons are not overpowered in the meta at the moment. They are not Hex Wraiths. They are not Vanguard. They are not Chosen. They are not these massive powerhouse units that are solely winning games by themselves, carrying armies. They're not Dawn Riders. And this is the part that is very important to recognize, because I think a lot of people could very easily see the results, see what's happening, and correlate before they think properly about it and say, Gluttons are overpowered and they need to be nerfed, and I don't think that's the right way. For this unit spotlight, I think the main thing to think about is, do you agree with this sentiment of Gluttons aren't the problem, it's actually the rest of the book? Or do you think that maybe I'm wrong and you think that the rest of the book is still pretty solid outside of a couple of outliers? Maybe you can agree with me at least on the Iron Blaster. But nevertheless, Ogre players, please tell me. I would like to know how you feel about it. I would like to hear more people's perspectives. I've been playing Ogres for quite a while now, and I've experimented with Beast Claw, I've experimented with Gluttons, I've experimented with Iron Blasters, I've experimented with Kragnos. I would like to see your guys' thoughts. I'd like to see what you guys write down in the comments. Please do tell me and share your experiences, because it really does help me get a better idea. If you'd like to see me do more unit spotlights, talking about my opinion on various other units that might be problematic for the meta, please do let me know. I do appreciate it. Anyway, thank you very much. Subscribe right now, and I will give you a crisp high five. Other than that, I wish you all the best. Have a good night, and I will see you soon.